Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to our Bears podcast. I'm your host, Michael Halatek, and joining me, as always, Stevie Pusch from Shy City Sports. There he is, and from
Good to
Sports
see you,
Mockery,
Michael.
from Sports Mockery, the one and only Dhruv Koul. Dhruv, welcome
How's it going,
back.
guys? How are
Good to
you?
see you.
Hey, it's Victory Tuesday, so you know what are your I'm going to start with you, Drew, because you were the last one to log in. Give me your 30-second synopsis of last night's victory.
Um, just what a win. This is a game that we have seen the Bears lose every time in the last 20 years. And the last 2 weeks, they've overcome a lot to steal a win at the last second. In Vegas, they were probably down the worst team, but they found a way to win. Yesterday, they were down the better team, in my opinion, and they overcame the refs, the rain, their own mistakes to pull out a big win. And so 3-2 is a lot better than 2-3, and their season's alive. They have a head-to-head win on an NFC fellow wildcard contender. So big win all around, and
Yep, absolutely. There's a little problem with your audio. You were kind of coming in and out. So hopefully that'll repair itself while we go through the shows. Stevie, it was funny that he mentioned the officiating because we were talking about that right before we came online. So give me your 30-second spiel on last night's big win.
What I'll say is that there is a massive cultural shift from Ben Johnson, from Ben Johnson's previous Bears head coaches. I've never seen in my lifetime a more animated, more motivating head coach than what the Bears have right now. I think the closest came was Matt Nagy. And I'm not a big rah guy. As long as I understand how you want to motivate your players, I'm okay with it. Because Lovie Smith is completely different from Ben Johnson. Not to say that Ben Johnson's going to take the Bears to the Super Bowl, because we Lovie Smith did that. Ben Johnson hasn't done that yet. But the culture is definitely changing to where the last two games they've had to play grinded out games, and the team has come out on top. We've seen before the Bears in those grinded out games shoot themselves in the foot to where now they're overcoming those mental gaps, and we're seeing them win it at the end of the game, last two games. And last thing I'll say is where we were at almost 4 weeks ago, following the Detroit loss, to where we are now. You talk about raising the Titanic, because that's basically what's happened right now.
It is definitely a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
I need to give a quick shout out to my littlest fan who is watching, Matthew. It was a pleasure. I actually got to meet Matthew. Matthew lives in California with his parents, Pat and Robin. And Robin and I graduated high school together, and
Wow.
this weekend was our 50th. That's a 5 and a 0, guys, reunion at Schaumburg High School, and Robin was
Nice.
there, and her husband Pat was there, and they brought Matthew. And when Pat pointed me out to Matthew, he came running up to me, and I grabbed him and I picked him up and I hugged him. And Pat took a great picture of it. It's on my Facebook page if you haven't seen it. But everybody, Pat, Robin, and my buddy Matthew, we all are saying hello to you tonight.
Hello.
And they made it. They flew out
Hello.
made it safe back to California. It's a funny thing about the last two places they've lived in California are Antioch and Elk Grove. And if anybody, and of course, Antioch and Elk Grove are towns in Illinois as well. So I have a lot of fun with that, with especially with And so apparently Matthew is grinning ear to ear watching right now as we speak, because I think he digs. If I don't know if you guys recall, but I presented him with a Bears jersey. I held it up and he, because I made sure Pat was watching, and it fits him like a dress, but he wears it proudly out in California, and it's nice to have a young guy, a Bear fan. His dad, Pat, literally is from the Arizona area, so he has been semi-converted to a Bears fan. He still roots for the Cardinals, and I don't blame him. But his wife and his son are doing a good job converting him to the orange and blue. So, guys, thanks for watching out of California. So,
Thank you.
with that, the Bears are 3-2, should be 4-1. In first place all alone in the NFC North. But every single team in the NFC North is at 3-2 or better. There's a 3-1-1, a 4-1, or a 4-2, because Detroit hasn't had their bye week yet. They have their bye week in week 8, so after this weekend. And it's nice. It's nice to have this feeling in the culture shift that we have seen over the last 3 weeks, because I'm sure that everybody that's on the screen right now was, after first 2 weeks, you can't tell me you weren't thinking same old Bears.
I wasn't thinking same old Bears. I was thinking it from the standpoint of, holy crap, this is going to be a lost season, and it's happening way too early. Because it was basically Ben Johnson's post game presser after the Lions loss, where he basically said, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna, it's a long haul. We're gonna find out who wants to be." Basically, I'm paraphrasing. He said we're going to find out who wants to be here, and who's not going to be here are the people that aren't buying into the program. And since then, it seems like everyone got the memo and everyone's bought into the program, starting with the Dallas game, where they came out, put up 4 touchdowns on offense. The defense, people, I know people can say, "Oh, the Cowboys were without CeeDee Lamb," but that's what got the Bears going. They've recorded 3 or more turnovers in their last 3 games, and it started with that Dallas game. It started with this Tyreek Stevenson strip of Javonte Williams after a long game. And you're thinking, okay, here we go again. So you are correct. The cultural shift is something that needs to be noted, and just where like I said earlier, where we were at 4 weeks ago, it's such a breath of fresh air to know that, hey, by late October we might be talking playoff hopes instead of, hey, Bears might get top 5 draft pick again.
Dhruv, the last thing I saw on X before we tuned in is the Bears' chances to make the postseason have risen to 34%, and I'll take that after 6 weeks.
Absolutely. Is my audio better?
Yeah, so far.
So far, so good. Okay. I think just kind of piggyback on what Stevie said. There was a little bit of an existential crisis after the second week, especially because of how much better the Lions looked. And so I think we as fans probably underestimated just how much of a coaching job and how much of a cleansing this team needed and this organization needed. You think about even the last few weeks, the Bears have literally tried to lose and made mistakes and just tried to give games away. And they've just needed somebody to make a play. And how are we conditioned as fans, right? Like Jake Moody's lining up for a 38-yard field goal. Does anyone feel good about it? We have seen that same kick blocked, hit the upright, double doink, sail wide left, all this stuff. We have seen that repeatedly, and we're conditioned to think that way. The players are too. That's all they know. Something's going to go wrong. Something's going to, someone's going to make a play over us. We're going to get a bad call. This is how they've been conditioned. And so Ben Johnson's literally had to pull this entire team from the reins and be like, hey, guys, focus. We can do this one play at a time. And we see them overcome. We talk about the Cowboys. They go 3 and out in the first possession. The Javonte Williams first or second carry is going for 30-plus yards. Tyreek Stevenson rips the ball out, and there's life, right? They were ready to lay down, but there was life. Eventually, they took control of that game. The Raiders game, trying to give it away, letting Max Crosby ruin the game, all this stuff. Eventually, Josh Blackwell makes a play. It's this stuff. I mean, we also saw what happened yesterday. They're so conditioned, and this stuff to clean up takes so much time. And now you're seeing a little bit of you're seeing belief. You're seeing kind of the way some of the players are talking. You're seeing some of the attitude. And you look at the kind of post-game celebration locker room stuff. They love their head coach. And the hard coaching that he's coming with and the discipline that he's instilling, it's a lot easier to make work when you're winning. But then also for him, he's also seeing who's buying into what I'm trying to do. So there's no doubt this team's going to look different next year, but he's making the best he can with the ingredients that he has, and he's starting to kind of cultivate a little bit more of a winning mindset. And I think like I said, I think we underestimated how much work this is going to take, but we're starting to see it. And yeah, the Cowboys aren't a great defense. They did win an impressive game. The Raiders are a mess, and they just snuck by. The Commanders are no joke. They're not a great team, but they're no joke. And the Bears were better than them down to down in their place. That's not nothing.
What I'll say, I just want to piggyback off of your piggyback. He brought up a perfect word that made me remember what I saw in Vegas when I went to the Bears-Raiders game. I haven't told you guys this, but I still am talking to my girlfriend about it because I had a blackout moment at the game, not because I was drinking, but because of the euphoric reaction to that block kick. And everyone every Bear fan in the stadium had that same reaction because it was a freaking party the rest of the night in Vegas. Because I remember the kick being blocked, and then where me and my girlfriend were sitting, there were 2 empty seats to each side of us. So we had almost a quarter row for me to pace back and forth while they're getting the kick ready. And when they blocked it, I just was high-fiving every Bears fan inside. I ran up, grabbed her, and kissed her. I couldn't remember which happened when. There's a 5 to 10 second euphoric blackout. I'm dead serious because in that moment, every Bears fan, I can relate to them in that stadium was like, this isn't supposed to happen for us. This isn't supposed to. This isn't how it's supposed to go. They were supposed to take the lead back and then find a way to throw it all away at the very end in some embarrassing fashion, and then they blocked the kick, and everyone was partying the rest of the night because it was just that unbelievable reaction. So it's not just the team; it's the fans that are getting a cultural shock to it too.
And we are long overdue for this culture shock, and it's greatly appreciated. Yes. We saw Caleb Williams muster a game-winning drive against Washington last year, only to have Eberflus give it away. Now, of course, the Hail Mary was a fluke. Okay, it was. All Hail Mary completions are flukes, in my opinion. But that 15-yard gimme that Flus allowed Washington to get in order to get them into position to throw that Hail Mary is what cost the game, not exactly the Hail Mary itself. He came back against Detroit in Detroit last year, only to have Eberflus screw up the game clock, and even then, on that 4th down pass to Rome, that just evaded him. He reached over his shoulder and it just missed his hands. He came back against Minnesota in Chicago with that. What did he have? 11 points in the last minute and a half to send it to overtime, and then of course Flu screwed up overtime for them. So now he's put back-to-back game-winning drives together that ultimately gave them the game. And how's this for irony? The score of both games was 25-24. I don't think that's ever happened in the history of the NFL.
It hasn't.
Yeah, so that is something that we can really, as Bear fans, we can sink our teeth into. And when you think about the fact that they didn't have their regular kicker, and they've got this guy who's much maligned on their practice squad, they bring him up for the game, and he goes 4 for 5. The only field goal miss was a block. He converted his only extra point try, and it was nice to see Ben Johnson in the locker room give Jake Moody a game ball because he deserved it.
He did. I don't know if Drew wants to go first on that one, but
go ahead, man.
What I'll say is, and I said it in the chat last night, the beauty about sports is, if you screw up and you're dedicated to the sport, it finds a way to give back to you, to where it's like there's always that redemption moment. They make movies off of it because it happens all the time. And for Jake Moody, I was talking about it earlier in the day yesterday, where I was like, crap, look at the weather. It's high winds, a lot of rain. Yeah. This is going to be a tough game for the Bears. And Jake Moody, not just to make one, but 4 field goals and a game-winning kick in that slot. Matt Gay, the Commanders kicker, missed the kick. It bounced off the left upright.
It's nice to see a doink go our way.
Right. But, this is a guy that, was highly touted coming out of Michigan. He gets cut by the 49ers after a terrible week 1 performance. I think he missed 3 out of 4 field goal attempts against the Seattle Seahawks. The Bears bring him in. Yeah. The Bears bring him in, and guess what? He wins them the game. Not only that, he's a hero. He gets carried off. I don't know if they carried him off the field, but they carried. They put him on their shoulders. Yeah,
carried him for a while.
And then he gets the game ball. And if he plays again this week, and looking ahead for the weather for the Bears Saints game, it's going to be another slop fest because they're expecting cool temperatures and rainy conditions. If he has another performance, we might have a kicker controversy in Chicago following, depending on how the Saints game shakes out.
It's just a nice problem to have, instead of trying to find a kicker who can make kicks. It's like, oh, we redeemed this really talented kicker and he stepped in and kicked for us and won a game. There's just so many examples, and this is just an example of the coaching staff and coaching getting a team and a player ready, conditioned to perform in a big stage. How many times have we seen random players come up for Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, the Tom Brady Patriots teams who just have one-off performances and go for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, like Jonas Gray. Players like that who just come out of nowhere and they're ready to go because of good coaching. The Bears redeemed this guy who was cut from a good team and a great coaching staff in San Francisco. He's lost. And he comes to Chicago on the practice squad. I'm sure a little humbling for him. Gets ready and kicks 4 field goals in tough conditions. His first game action, and he doesn't find out that he's kicking until the night before. I mean, this is just coaching staff getting a player ready to play. And like that, the Bears have, all season they've had guys step in. You've had Noah Sewell. You've had, Josh Blackwell. You've had Nashawn Wright. You've had all these guys come in and play Theo Benedict. This is you've had guys come in, step in, and play pivotal roles in key situations and having them ready to play. That is critical. And I can't tell you how much of they've just never had this. They've never had players ready to step in and know what they're doing. It's so refreshing to see. And look, I'm 3 weeks away from literally just calling the Bears offense a unit, like a real unit. They are so close from being so flat out, insert swear word here, dominant. It's just they're so close. And I mean, it's just so great to see. I mean, Ben Johnson and the coaching staff, it's just chef's kiss. Like I can't say enough.
Let me piggyback off of that. The last time I've seen a Bears coaching staff get someone ready, like a backup ready that actually went on and had a stellar game, was 2018 Thanksgiving when they had basically 3 days to get Chase Daniel ready because they played Sunday night against the Vikings. He goes out, throws 2 touchdowns, and does the best job as a QB manager that a backup quarterback can do in that situation. Another guy we need to start talking about is Dominique Robinson, who I've been very critical of. He has a sack and a half now in his last 3 games. He's starting to show you something. And then on top of that,
Shamar Turner.
Shamar Turner. Yeah.
Well,
all the rookies are starting to show something now. All the rookies are starting to show something. And the one thing I'll say about Ben Johnson, this offense as a unit, especially the passing offense, one thing that shouldn't go under the radar in yesterday's game was through the first, I think it was towards the end of the first half, they showed the stat line of when Williams was 8 for 11 or 12. And then they show how many different receivers he had hit. So he had hit six of those 8 throws were to 6 different passing targets. That is massive because they're basically saying, hey, I'm spreading the ball around. I'm not singling in on a guy. And for a first-year head coach to say, hey, you know what? Roma Dunze is showing him to be an elite wide receiver. Let's work off that and start feeding the ball to the other guys. That is some really good coaching right there.
Did you guys see them blocking downfield in the running
yes.
game? DJ Moore brought in, Roma Dunze brought in, Zacchaeus brought in, Luther Burton it's amazing. All these guys are brought in and they are sticking it to those defensive backs and whoever they were lined up on. They were creating angles. They're brought in guys. I mean, this is it can not be understated how important that is because this is what the offense expects. It's you are going to play a role that's beyond just catching the ball. The no block, no rock became kind of a gimmick saying, but I mean, they are brought in. It's really cool to see.
I like that no block, no rock. That is, it tells a story, and it goes back to what Stevie said earlier about the no love lost coaching that this coaching staff is giving to the team. There's if either it's close to saying it's my way or the highway, and instead of people going, with their arms crossed saying F, and I got to be careful because Matthew's watching. And but they all, like you said, like Drew said, everybody has bought in to this regime. And I got to tell you, I saw this or heard this somewhere earlier today before I went into work, and somebody said, this team isn't even hitting on all cylinders yet.
No,
they're about 70%, and 70% is good enough to be almost 4-1. If it wasn't for the defensive debacle in the fourth quarter of week 1, these guys are sitting at 4-1 and on top of the division. And even with that, they're a half a game out of first place after 5 weeks. You got to love
They're top 10.
Yeah.
They're top 10 in scoring offense. And this is, again, to your point, they're not hitting. Like I said, they're so close to just being fully functioning, and they're already this good.
I really want to see what happens with the DJ Moore injury because I really want to see, if DJ Moore is day-to-day, but I got to think that he misses at least the Saints game because, how often do we see a player stay overnight in the hospital and then play the next week? I mean, it's happened before, but it's a rare case. And I
talk about Jim McMahon. Yeah, he was in the hospital for a couple of days right up before their week.
He also admitted to a lot of medical use to get him ready for that Thursday night game. I know which game you're talking about. He also
week 3 in Minnesota when he came off the bench. The Bears were trailing 17-6, and his first 2 passes went for touchdowns.
right, and he also admitted to saying, "Hey, you know that warning label: do not consume with alcohol." He did that before the game.
I'm sure. Well, we can go back all the way to. And this is a funny story because I'm sure neither one of you were Bear fans in 1980. Week 1, 1980. The Bears are in Green Bay. Okay, the game goes to overtime. They line up for a field. They being the Packers line up for a field goal. And they had to go find their kicker because Chester Markle was in the locker room doing the lines of coke. That's a true story.
Oh man.
Oh no, I'm not questioning the authenticity. I've heard that story before. I just love how there was a warning not to use certain words, and then we just went off the rails on this one.
But we're not I don't think if I swore, Matthew, I'm sorry. But we can talk about coke because it's. But anyway, the kick gets blocked. The field goal
Right.
blocked, and Markle, it bounces right back to Markle, and I don't even think he'd remember running around left end and getting into the end zone to win by 6. But the Bears ended up with a little sweet revenge because on the first Sunday of December they played in Chicago, and that is the all-time record for the biggest scoring differential in the history of the Bears-Packers franchise. When the Bears, at the end of the first quarter, it was 0-0. The Bears went on to win 61-7.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at that game. That was great.
Yeah, nice.
That's awesome.
But back to the DJ Moore thing. I really want to see what happens if he's out, and if the Saints game, especially with the weather, is that game where Ben Johnson says, "Hey, we're gonna get the 12 personnel going on the passing offense." So maybe we see 7 or 8 targets for Cole Kmet and maybe 5 to 6 for Colson Loveland. I would love. I that's when I think the Ben Johnson offense will have arrived. Is if you get both tight ends to have both like maybe 4 more catches in a game together and 50 yards each, 50 yards or more each.
Has any receiver on the Bears eclipsed 100 yards besides Burden in week 1?
Burden didn't. Odunze and Burden have done it. Burden did it against Dallas, yes. Other than that, no.
And he had I think Burden had 4 receptions on only 4 targets for something like 51 yards yesterday. So Burden did his part through the receiving game, and as we mentioned earlier, he was dynamite blocking for the running game. So it was good to see. You talked about, was it Dhruv? You talked about our offensive performance so far. Here's a stat for you. The Bears have scored at least 21 points in every game so far this year. The last time.
Oh wow, they have. They really have. Oh, that's wild. That's wild. Yeah. I knew they were going to be up there because they're top 10 in scoring, but 20. I guess 21 and above. That's fair. Because the Lions game they also scored 21. The funny thing is about Burden, he has 12 targets, 11 receptions, 150 yards, and I think and he has 1 touchdown at least, maybe 2. I can't remember. The funny thing about Burden is that I think 2 of his receptions have gone for like 100 yards, and like the remaining like 9 have gone for like 40 or 50 because of like screens and stuff.
The one
negative and
touchdown was 65 yards, I think.
Yeah.
That's
one of them was with the flea flicker.
So to finish my thought through, the Bears have scored at least 21 points in all 5 games to open the season. The last time that happened for a Bears team was 30 years ago.
Wow.
I thought that was in 2013.
Yeah, that's the graphic I saw. I can go back and look,
Okay.
but
'Cause trying to think because it was 2013
well, hold on.
because it was 20.
I
All right,
thought they
let's.
only had 20
While I'm
wins
looking
ago.
that up, let's switch to
Yeah.
defense now because the Bears have played, aside from the Detroit game and the fourth quarter of the Minnesota game, they've done pretty well. And in the during their winning streak for the last three games, they had four takeaways, and three takeaways. Now, the last turnover last night was a giveaway, but and it was nice to see Wright got picked on
Mhm.
in the entire first portion of that game. It was really gratifying to see him come away with. He's the one that recovered the last fumble. So it was nice to see. So, Dhruv, I'll start with you. Speak to the Bears defense and their propensity for generating turnovers.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is Dennis Allen has been really good about designing certain, exotic looks and rotations with the safeties and stunts and pressures and sim pressures with his defensive front. I think down to down, before yesterday, the run defense had been atrocious. I think, whether it's just not able to get any push, whether the offensive lines that we're going against were just simply better than them, which I guess, honestly, to be fair, they probably were. They've gone against some tough offensive lines. Linebackers not fitting the run fits, like against Vegas. The linebackers were lost. It was terrible. So I think that's been down to down kind of an issue. But the actual generating of takeaways, they have been relentless with great coverage, really clear film study. I mean, Kevin Byard, he baited Geno Smith into two of the interceptions just by knowing exactly that he loves to throw that dig route to Jacoby Myers. And he picked him off twice by making him think he was going to go take the vertical clear out and then comes back and picks off the dig. That's just smart football. They've been really emphasizing, like, what do these quarterbacks like to do? And then how do I position myself? What are the concepts that they like out of the formations? That has been a big reason for them to be in position so often. Jaquan Brisker baited Daniels near the goal line yesterday on that interception as well. Kind of playing kind of underneath and picking it off. Just really good play and film study and just kind of like knowing what to do. I think the peanut punch aspect of it, Tyreek Stevenson doing it against Javonte Williams. Yesterday, Montez Sweat against Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, I think is his name. Just smart heads-up plays. And they're being opportunistic. I think that has been really key. The pass rush is still frustrating. They still have to rely a lot on stunts and sim pressures and blitzes to kind of like generate that pressure. But yesterday it was starting to get effective, like especially later in the game. Daniels was having to either evade, which he's just really good at, or, the Bears, defensive front did get to him a couple times. So I think they're starting to show a little bit, but sorry. Yeah.
Three sacks.
Yeah.
They had 3 sacks.
3 seconds, which is not bad. I mean, and Dominic Robinson, to your point earlier, Stevie, like he's starting to come on. I really liked what I saw from Montez Sweat yesterday. Javon Dexter had a good game.
Yeah.
Shamar had a good game. I'm excited to bring Austin Booker into the mix because he gives them a different element from a pass rush perspective with the speed and bend rather than, just being a big pocket pushing defensive end. So I'm excited to see that, but I think their defensive line needs to win a little bit more regularly for me to feel better about it. But yesterday was a step in the right direction because that Washington offense is a unit. Like they really are. And even without Terry McLaurin, like Daniels is a multiplier with his legs. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's been really good. Their run blocking's been really good. Cliff Kingsbury is awesome when it comes to scheme. Dennis Allen had a really good game plan yesterday, and it showed up.
Stevie, your thoughts on the defense so far?
I mean, it's simple. It's the turnovers because they don't win the Raiders game if they don't force turnovers. They don't win the game last night without those turnovers. I mean, Jaquan Brisker comes up with a huge red zone interception where, I'm trying to figure out if it was a bad throw compared to a Brisker baited him because he came underneath the pass, but I also felt that Daniel should have let it rip off the seam when he had Samuels in the end zone like that. But I'm feeling a lot better. Yesterday was the first time this year, and I know Austin Booker's still out and Brady Jarrett's out, where you are starting to get your key guys back, and Jalen Johnson's out too. But you got Kyler Gordon back, and Dennis Allen during the offseason was raving about what he could potentially do with Kyler Gordon. He envisioned him using him as a Charles Woodson slash Marshawn Lattimore in this defense. Marshawn Lattimore was a really good cornerback that created a lot of havoc for opposing offenses under Dennis Allen for the Saints defense a few years ago. The one concern I do have is like Dhruv said, is the defensive line because Montez Sweat, even though he didn't record a sack, he played a hell of a game. Forced a fumble, had a key pass, a breakup, and I felt he was trying to getting some pressure on Jaden Daniels. My concern right now is where is Dio? Because I keep on forgetting that he's on this team right now because he's not. Ever since week 1 we haven't seen him. There's a reason why, even with the imminent return of Austin Booker, that the Trey Hendrickson trade rumors are going to get louder and louder towards the November 2nd trade deadline because you have Spencer Rattler coming in this week, and then you play Lamar Jackson the following week. So that gives you 2 weeks before, oddly enough, the trade deadline hits before the Bengals game or right after the Bengals game. I feel like it's right. Like they play the Bengals either the week of the trade deadline. I can't remember if the trade deadline hits 2 days before or 2 days after the Bengals game.
I'll look it up.
After.
Okay, because
I think it's after.
Okay, because you're gonna need pass rush pressure, especially against the Ravens, who they're gonna get Lamar Jackson back, but you don't know how mobile he's gonna be and how much he's gonna want to scramble coming off of a severe hamstring injury. And the other thing comes down to what Ryan Poles wants to do with this defense, because say if they do beat the Saints, then you're 4-2, facing 3 winnable games against the Ravens, the Bengals, and the Giants. And if you sweep those games, then you're looking at a 7-2 record, and you're knocking at the playoff door. Do you, Drew? If the Bengals said, "Hey, you know what? We've made some calls. The best we're getting is a 5th or a 6th." Do you pull the trigger on a trade for Trey Hendrickson?
For Hendrickson? Yeah, even with his back injury right now.
Yeah, because that's the way I gotta feel that trade value is plummeting for the Bengals right now, because I don't know why they signed him to the, hey, we're just gonna pay you the rest of this year, and then you're a free agent, and then hey, now you got back. We're terrible, and your back is acting up literally at the worst time for us to get the most value in a trade for you. If I'm Ryan Poles and the Bears are winning, and you kind of figure, hey, we just need to juice up this pass rush to further our chances of creating turnovers, I'd pull the trigger.
I'd keep an eye on Miami and Jalen Phillips and even Bradley Chubb.
That's why I thought you were going to say Bradley Chubb initially.
Yeah, but Jalen Phillips is honestly my favorite player on that defense, and dude is amazing, and he's a different kind of a little bit different of a pass rusher than someone like Montez Sweat or Dio. So that would be another person I keep an eye on. And I think because the AFC North is still like, the Steelers are just and the Ravens are obviously in big trouble, and the Browns are the Browns. So there's reason to believe for them that, look, like we have Joe Flacco now. He raises our floor a little bit from what Jake Browning is, and we have these 2 absolute units at wide receiver. Like, maybe we can compete and do something. But so maybe they may want to hang on to Hendrickson, or to your point, because his trade value is so shot, maybe they'd rather hold out and just get a a higher compensatory pick, a future year. So maybe that might do that. But I keep an eye on Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb, especially with also the Eagles. Now that they lost Darius Smith to retirement, the Eagles are going to be making calls, and Howie gets what he wants always.
I feel like the wild card in the defensive end trade sweepstakes is going to be the Indianapolis Colts, because they came out of nowhere. They've come out of nowhere, and when you have teams that come out of nowhere like this, you have to go all in, just because you don't know how far you can go, because you didn't think you were going to be in this situation. So but I mean, and to the point about like where we've gone from in the last few weeks, after the Detroit game, I was like, okay, maybe we have the DJ Moore trade discussions, maybe we have the Tyson Bagent discussions. Now you're not even worried about the running back position after last night now, because you kind of calmed the weather on that one, to where maybe you just add a defensive end now, and that's it.
DeAndre Swift played might have been his best game as a Bear ever. So so that was great to see. All right, I have a couple of clarifications for you. You said 2013, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
The Bears scored only 18 points in Week 5.
Okay, that's correct, against the Saints, where they lost 26-18.
So, yeah. And then they scored 27, 41, 22, and then they didn't score less than 21 against Detroit in looks like week 11. The trade deadline is 2 days after the Cincinnati game. The Cincinnati game is Sunday, November 2nd. Trade deadline is at 3 p.m. Chicago time on the 4th.
Okay.
That Tuesday. We have talked several times about DJ Moore already, and as yet I have not heard anything other than he was taken to the hospital last night after the game. I haven't seen an update anywhere.
Ben Johnson did provide an update, but it was a very vague update. They said that he's day-to-day. The prognosis was favorable to them, and that everything was good. He's back in Chicago.
He is back in Chicago. Okay.
As of this afternoon, he's back in Chicago. And all they said was that it was an apparent groin injury, which is for them being that vague, and it being a groin injury. I have some more questions about that, because, he
came back in the game.
Right. And he had a good limp, like a good limp. I think someone recorded him limping after the game. But if you're going if you have to spend the night in the hospital, it's usually because there's internal bleeding, or there's threat to an organ, or if it's I think we could figure out what organs, or not organ, but what vital organ for males is near the groin area. I'm just trying to keep it PG for the little ones in attendance. But I mean, I feel like this is going to be something that's going to be concerning, and I'm going to be, for how clear the Bears have been with their communication regarding injuries, I'm really dreading the fact that this might be something like they're going to put him on IR, because this is still very questionable.
I hope it's not a kidney. For those of you that weren't around in 1984, the most brutal game I have ever been to, vicious tackling, was the Bears. The Bears hosted the Super Bowl champion Raiders in Chicago. 3 quarterbacks got knocked out of that game, including Jim McMahon. Jim McMahon was lost for the rest of the season. I could tell stories, but they're not PG rated, about what happened to Jim McMahon right after halftime. He actually came back out from halftime, played one snap, and came running off the field. He ended up in the locker room, and he ended up in the hospital with a lacerated kidney. And I can't remember the name of the 2 quarterbacks for the Raiders. One never played it down again the rest of his life because he blew up his knee.
One was Mark Wilson, I
Mark
can't
Wilson
remember.
was the starting quarterback, and he actually ended up with a fractured thumb.
Yeah.
And he had to be back in the game in the second half because their backup quarterback blew out his knee. The Bears just destroyed him. Do you remember Hall of Fame punter Ray Guy?
Yeah, I was going to say that there's the running joke about him hiding underneath the towels because he didn't want to go in at quarterback.
Literally refused. He literally refused to play quarterback, seeing what was going on out there. And Wilson, he had to come back in the game despite he had to finish the game with a fractured thumb. And I think he went on IR after that. But yeah, if that's a kidney problem with DJ Moore, that would have made sense that he ended up in the hospital. And maybe it was because of the way he landed, because he landed on his back, on his lower back.
Right. I was afraid when they said that it was, when I saw the way he landed, I thought they were going to say it was going to be like a hip or like internal bleeding, because similar to the Bo Jackson injury, where the hip area is very sensitive when it comes to why am I drawing a blank on the word, when it comes to hits like that, whereas like with the Bo Jackson one, it was the fact that he was running and someone grabbed his leg and he was running so fast that it just ripped the whole socket apart, blew up the whole socket, the hip socket. With that one,
and he ended up playing for the White Sox with an artificial hip.
Yep. But
crazy.
Wow.
I mean, for the younger guys like me and Dhruv, it was the Chris Sims injury where it was ruptured spleen, right? Was it spleen or sternum?
I thought it was spleen.
I think it was the spleen. Yeah. But I mean,
was that one against the Bears?
No, that was back in. I want to say that was in 2006. I can't remember who they played, but I remember watching Sunday Night Football and them saying, "Hey, they were freaking out because that they had rushed him to the hospital because he was he post game he said he was feeling sick, and then they realized, hey, you're in life or death situation right now."
Yeah.
I know that we had the Zach Miller thing where he spent was it a week in the hospital after the gruesome knee injury that he suffered in New Orleans?
Minimum, yeah, because he had a couple surgeries there to save his leg, and then and everything.
Yeah, before they even operated on the knee, he ruptured blood vessels, the major blood vessels in his leg, and I don't know. One of the surgeons on the scene in New Orleans noticed that the temperature change in his foot.
Mm-hmm.
Said, "We got to get this guy now. We got to get him to the hospital because there was no blood flow from his knee down to his toes, and of course now he's pulling blood in his body. He could have not only lost his leg." There could have been a possibility where that surgery was life-saving.
Yeah.
So
brutal.
Oh yeah, I didn't think we were going to go down this road with all the brutal injuries. So let's get back on track and let's talk a little bit about the NFC North, and of course there are upcoming games over the next 3 weeks. All three teams, Minnesota, Green Bay, and of course the Bears, have all had their bye week. So we're going to start with Detroit, who's at 4-2, and they got to play at home against Tampa this coming week. And that by no stretch of the imagination is an easy game for them. And week 8, they do have their bye. So after starting week 9, there's no time off for any of these teams. All of their bye weeks are done, which is it's nice that they all kind of got grouped together for the NFC North. And then they play. So ironically, over the next three weeks, they don't play on the road. They play at home against Tampa. They have their bye week. Then they're at home against Minnesota. And that's 2 tough games. 2 tough games. Green Bay is 3-1-1. They have to go to Arizona, and Arizona. I'm sure that Arizona is, after they lost the way they did, and I can't even remember who the team was. Not this past weekend, but the weekend before,
The Titans.
where they literally gave the game away.
Titans. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Titans, and that still couldn't save the coach's job. But then they have to play Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh, so that's not going to be an easy thing. And then they come home to play an upcoming Carolina team who has played very well over the last couple of weeks. Minnesota's at 3-2, but they have to play. They have a home game. This might be the toughest schedule of the four NFC North teams. They are at home, but against Philadelphia. And after losing, 2 straight, Philadelphia is going to be just bearish. No pun intended. They're going to come out flying against Minnesota, I think. Then they travel to Los Angeles to play the Chargers. And then they have to go to Detroit to play the Lions. The Bears have the Saints at home. Then they have AFC North opponents, Baltimore and Cincinnati, and neither of those teams are scaring anybody this year.
Yeah.
So
my question for the question I have for the Vikings, have they gone back to JJ McCarthy? I haven't seen anything this week, or are they staying with Carson Wentz?
I have not heard. Drew, have you heard? You're smiling, so
I haven't seen anything, but I can't believe we're back here. Like Carson Wentz, versus JJ. Like, please, Vikings, just play JJ. Just you got rid of Sam Darnold so you could play JJ. Now don't tell me you're gonna go to Carson Wentz instead of the guy you drafted 10th or whatever overall. Like, please, I'm not, again, as a Bears fan, cool, play Carson Wentz, but as like a football and lover of good process, please go back to your young quarterback and just have him play. He needs the reps. Please don't waste his season.
And so what I'll say about the Detroit game is that, one, I can't believe they found a way to get beat by Kansas City like they did to Kansas City, especially with Kansas City coming off of a hard-fought loss to Jacksonville on Monday night, the week prior. They might be catching Tampa Bay at the right time, but, every time we doubt Baker Mayfield, he just keeps coming back better. Because
as the resident over all these years that guys, Baker Mayfield's really good. And by the way, Drake May is QB1 of the 2024 NFL draft. This is a pretty good season for me. And so, Dhruv is winning quite a bit. So just wanted to call that out.
No, QB1 in the 2024 draft went to USC.
Hey, I like Caleb. Don't get me wrong. I think Caleb's on the right track, but May is God tier right now. He is playing unbelievable. Anyway.
But what I was going to say about Baker, though, is if he goes into Detroit without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin, and without Ibuka, and still finds a way to put up some big numbers, you have to start talking about him being a top 5 quarterback at this point.
You might even have to consider him an MVP candidate.
Oh,
obviously, yeah.
We should be doing both those things now. The way he's been playing is he's been awesome. He's been truly awesome. He's been independent of scheme. He's been just fantastic, and obviously literally putting the team on his back. I think I forget who was calling the Bucks 49ers game on Sunday. I think it wasn't Brady. It wasn't Adam Amin either. I can't. So one of the commentators, they had this stat or kind of this thing where if the Bucks had played. If the games had lasted 58 minutes, the Bucks would be 1-4, and in 60 minutes, because Baker's led them on a comeback every single game, and they've won. So it's just one of those things where he's playing out of his mind. And I mean, the Bucks, everyone wants to talk about, for example, last week, the 49ers have all these injuries and blah blah blah. The Bucks have been dealing with Graham Barton is their center, and he played left tackle for the first couple of weeks. We can't overstate or understate how much the Bucks themselves have had to, kind of go after. They didn't have Bucky Irving last week. Obviously, the top 4 receivers are gone. They've found a way. Good coaching. Todd Bowles is actually doing a good job again. Like he's actually calling good defense and doing good process. Like Mike Vrabel also, I was very low on Mike Vrabel because he was usually very conservative and didn't know what to do on fourth down. He's doing a good job. I'm glad that coaches are starting to learn these things. But anyway, long story short, Baker is absolutely playing like a top 5 quarterback and an MVP candidate. And even though they're going to be short-staffed against the Lions are short-staffed themselves. It'll be a good game, but I think both those teams are very good.
The Lions quarterback, I'm trying to blank on him. He got suspended. No, the cornerback.
No, it was the safety, Brian Branch. But I think he's going to appeal.
Brian Branch.
Yeah, he got suspended for
so
one game.
I saw that, but I didn't know if it goes into effect for this upcoming game or if there will be an appeal of it.
I think until if he appeals, I think until it's resolved, he can still play. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then the one thing I also wanted to bring up, and get you guys' thoughts about it. Green Bay, the last 4 weeks, they haven't looked as dominant as we thought they were going to be after week 2. Because I didn't see the game. I saw 5 minutes of the Bengals-Packers game. I saw in the first quarter, and then I went out. But you got to blow out the Bengals by more than 8. It was a 26-18 game, right?
Something like that. I can look at it.
Yeah, 27-18. But they scored that field goal in the last few minutes to kind of push it to 2 scores. Like either the Packers were playing with their food, or the Bengals figured something out a little bit with Joe Flacco. But I think it's more the Packers have. I've been watching them. They are not fully put together on offense, and I like Matt LaFleur a lot. I think he's been an awesome coach. He still is an awesome coach. I think his process at the end of the Dallas game was questionable to play for the field goal. I think Jordan Love he's just not what I feel like Twitter wants to make him out to be. He's not bad. He's a explosive quarterback who has a lot of dips. And
he was 1 second away from holding on to the ball one second too long to becoming a meme. Sorry to cut you off, by the way. So
27-18 was the final score against the Bengals.
Yeah.
I live in Wisconsin. I get the Madison TV station. I have to see every Packer game. I pull out a second TV and it hasn't happened yet this year, but if both Green Bay and Chicago are playing on the same network at the same time on a Sunday, I have to pull out my super box and I pull out a 30-inch TV and I put it up that right below the television that I watch, where I'm sitting right now when I watch games. And I have to tell you, I've never been impressed with Jordan Love. And here's the reason why. Jordan Love can hit a 40-yard pass to a wide open receiver. How they get that wide open, I never know, but it happens at least a half a dozen times a game. But he can't hit a 5-yard out pattern to save his life. It happened again this past week where he totally missed a guy, threw it over his head. And it wasn't more of a – it was 5 yards and a quick out, and he blasted it over his head. He just is never effective. The only thing that is saving Jordan Love right now is the fact that he's got an amazing running back.
Yeah.
That's who I wanted the Bears to sign last year.
It was that would have been my pick, but I was totally shocked when they selected, and we've talked about it on the show several times. I didn't see the need for them to sign DeAndre Swift, and well, here we are.
Yeah,
I mean
Patrick's comment about Cam Scatterbo. I mean, I think 4th round was probably the right round for him, and the Giants just took him beforehand. So
yeah, and I think that they were going to take. I have heard more than several people say that he was on the board and he would have been the Bears selection if the Giants didn't pick him right before the Bears went that round. So a lot of people thought they were going to trade up, but that didn't happen this time. So it's a shame because Can you imagine DeAndre Swift and Scatterboo in the same backfield, or at least spelling each other?
I mean, that being the perfect pairing because it was Swift speed and Scabbo's power back ability. I mean, that's the one thing that the Bears don't have right now is a true blue power back.
Yeah.
Because DeAndre Swift's got the speed. Roshan Johnson is almost like a fullback at this point if they decide to give him carries. And Calvin Ungai we still don't know what he is.
But he's effective. Monday has been effective.
He was effective yesterday.
But he catches the ball. He runs with authority. He's tough to bring down, and he blocks well in the passing game.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not down on him, but it's just we don't know like what he is going to be yet for this team, because I've been very critical of DeAndre Swift. He did this last year, where the first 3 games he doesn't do anything, and then he has a big breakout game 4 and 5, kind of levels off, and then games 7 and 8 goes off again, disappears for 3 games, and then does it again. So hopefully we find more consistency with Swift this rest of the way, but that remains to be seen.
Do the Bears beat New Orleans Sunday? And if so, what's the score? Dhruv, we'll start with you. I'll go last.
Yeah, I think they'll win. I think the Saints are a feisty team. Spencer Rattler has been fairly impressive, and honestly, he played really well on Sunday against the Patriots. He's been impressive, but I think the Bears, just given what they've been building with Ben Johnson, I think their floor is higher and their ceiling is still to achieve, but they're already in a pretty good spot. I expect that improvement to continue. So yeah, I think the Bears will win, just because I think they are a better team, even if the Saints are frisky. So I'll say 27-23 Bears.
Stevie.
I say the Bears are going to win too. I think the Saints are due for a big loss. They've been playing really good at home, and they other than the Giants game, they really have nothing to show for the other games. They're going to come to Chicago. They're going to be playing in inclement weather as of right now. And Dennis Allen, he knows most of that roster, because most of that roster was there with him up until the time recently when he got fired from New Orleans. So it'll be very interesting to see. I'm really interested to see how the defense slows down the Saints' offense. Granted, Spencer Rattler is no Joe Burrow. They still have big play capabilities. I'm gonna err on the side of caution. I think the momentum continues for the Bears. I think we see maybe this is the game where the offense is fully clicking on all cylinders. I'm going to say the Bears 30, the Saints 16.
This is unscripted, guys, in people watching it at home. I have it 31-17. So I got 2 more points being scored, but the same margin of victory. The Bears are actually 5.5-point favorites going into Sunday, according to CBS Sports. The last weather report I saw, it's going to be worse weather on Saturday, with rain showers in the morning on Sunday and starting to clear up. So hopefully by game time, and of course the field's going to be covered overnight. So hopefully the rain will disperse just prior to game time, and we'll end up with a good game. Final thoughts, Stevie, we'll start with you.
I will say that what I said earlier to begin the show, we are seeing a cultural shift, cultural cleansing for not just the Bears roster, but the fan base too. It's very refreshing to do a show with you guys to where it's like, holy crap, we're talking about almost like I can't think, like, there's only been one negative thing we've actually had to discuss about this team throughout today's show, and I can't remember the last time where we were like, bravo for all faces of the Bears throughout the show for the Bears. So it's really fun what Ben Johnson's doing with this team. They can't lose this game on Sunday because the momentum's there. This is one of those games where you're riding high. It's just like, here, carry the momentum. Don't screw anything up. And if the Bears win against the Saints, I gotta have a really good feeling that we're looking at a really long winning streak at this point. Especially depending on what happens with the Ravens, we might be looking at a six-game winning streak.
Yeah, I think we cannot discount the amount of just good vibes, for lack of a better word, coming from what Ben Johnson's doing. The improvement that I'm expecting from the team that they continue to show. I've already talked about like 5 times how the Bears offense is just so close to being like awesome, like truly awesome. And, we caught a glimpse of it yesterday. And I mean, that was with so many plays left on the field and some plays called back due to penalty. And I just, there's a lot to be excited about. So I think that improvement naturally, I think will be part of what plays into the Bears' expectation to win some of these games. But the other thing I would say is it's just so cool to win on the road. There's something about beating a team like in the NFL on their home field, and like for the Bears to just go back to the side of the disaster last year and exercise their demons kind of in the same way, and kind of make it happen. It was cool. It was just really, really cool. There's something else about being able to go somewhere else and just, tell fans, we'll have to keep it PG, but, to tell fans to go home respectfully, and take your loss. And so the Bears have been able to do that the last 2 weeks. They're going to be, I think they have 9 road games this year, because of, the way the scheduling works out on every alternate year. So they'll be on the road more. The more they can show that resilience and grittiness to win on the road will be important, of course. They still have to go to Lambeau. They still have to go to Minnesota. They still have to go to
Detroit.
Well, they already went to Detroit. But
I'm sorry, you're right. They finished the year at home.
They finished the year at home against Detroit. But like they have quite a few trips lined up. So it's just good. And if the Bears can figure out their running game continually, like they did yesterday, that travels generally more so than the passing game. So, that'll give them a good foundation. So long way of saying pretty cool, sustainable stuff that we've seen from this team. We've seen some growth. It's okay to get excited.
It is okay to get excited. Former host of Good Morning Football, Kay Adams, on her Twitter X account said she's calling it right now. The Bears are going to win their next 4 games. And I hope she's right. Yeah,
I hope so too.
You got to take it with a grain of salt because Kay Adams is from Chicago. I don't know where she lives now, but she is a former Chicagoan. And but to start seeing some of the media starting to change their tune, especially when it came to the fact that we have some media out there that got behind the Bears with respect to the fact that they got short-sighted, and I'm putting it mildly, in last night's games in the eyes of the officials. There were at least 3 penalties. The 5 men with who did
Theo Benedict?
Theo Benedict.
We called Benedict for being and the rule of thumb is his helmet's got to be even or in front of the center's backside, and it was clearly in front of that. And that not only did it take away a touchdown pass for Caleb, but a remarkable catch that people would be talking about for the next several weeks that Rome Odunze had. You had the pass interference call. You had the offside call against DJ Moore that was very questionable, and you had the offensive pass interference call against was it Loveland? that was absolutely ridiculous. So
don't forget it was late in the game, the roughing the passer call on Jaquan Brisker, where he was pushed into Jaden Daniels into his legs. That would have been a punting situation.
yeah.
Instead,
It ended up being a touchdown.
Yeah.
That one I was like, okay, you're I could see where they kind of like they threw the flag on that one because like you're taught don't touch anywhere below the QB's knees. You like, granted, if you're pushed, it's one thing, but like when I saw Joe Brisker put both hands, I was like, ah.
Yeah,
But
I didn't even mention that one because he did hit him low. It's kind of even. It was a little bit debatable with the push actually did anything to make him, because he was already. I don't. He was already.
right.
As were already at Daniel's waist level, and he lunged for him, which caused him to fall down. And he hit him. He didn't hit him in his knees. He hit him mid thigh. You know.
Well, he was pushed. He
Nice
was
stuff.
pushed by the left tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah. So there's what, four? That's 4 or 5 penalties that we're talking about just in the last 2 minutes that were less than legitimate, let's just say. And
Good word.
it's nice to see the national media start to chime in on the fact that the Bears got the short end of the stick on those penalties. So that's about, Matthew, that's as clean as I can make it, my friend. Guys, it's been another great show. Let's week 9 is basically the break-even point. The Bears, you had mentioned the Bears have an extra road game this year, and technically it's been played because number one, it was the Raiders, which was the odd game, and number 2, after 5 games, the Bears have only played 2 home games and 3 road games. So from here on out, they've got 12 games left, 6 at home, 6 on the road. And the only thing left to say is good, better, best.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the chat room. And we'll get together again. We'll talk about it when we'll get together in the chat room, and we'll make sure that everybody we get that message out to everybody. So thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Take care, guys.
Thank you for
Great show.
You guys.
Listeners. Thank you, Patrick, for every comment. They were great, and Chris Kelly, I really appreciate you coming on late. I hope you enjoyed the show, and to all of the visitors that were on watching today, we really appreciate it. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, so it helps the algorithm and gets this show out to more people. With that, have a great night, and we'll see you real soon.